All right. I'm Steve Shaw. I'm going to be covering basics of firearm safety and basic operations of the three weapons that you're using, Artemis. And then the final block will be covering the basics of skeet shooting, which will be the station I'll be running there. But just to go over some basic familiarization, and I have some rules here. So we always want to deal with the basic rules of firearm safety first. So those would be, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction, and depending on what range you're at, they will let you know what the safe direction is. If you're outdoors, it's usually at the ground, up in the air, and downrange. You certainly don't want to be pointing it uprange where the other people are. You want to keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Treat every gun as if it's loaded. So a lot of times people will hand you a gun and you have to treat every gun as if it's loaded. Prevents accidents from happening that way. Always be aware of your target and what's beyond it. You're responsible for every round that leaves a firearm. And never point the gun at something you're not willing to destroy, which kind of alludes back to some of the other ones. As far as the range, you always want to, if you're on a range, you always want to follow the instructions of the range safety officer. And every range is going to be specific. They're going to have different rules, so you have to pay attention to what they're telling you. They're going to let you know the safe directions. They're going to let you know what to do in case of a malfunction. If you see anything unsafe, everybody at the range has the ability to call a ceasefire. And if somebody calls a ceasefire, you're going to put your firearm down in a safe direction and step away from it. And the range safety officer will take care of it from there. Never load your gun until you're instructed to. Again, we're managing safety. So that's the biggest point for all of these. After you're done firing, you always want to remove the source of ammunition. So if you're firing a handgun or a rifle, you want to drop your magazine. Shotguns are a little different because it's a tube fed. You can't really do that, but you want to make sure the action is held open and that you set the gun down facing in a safe direction. If you see, and as I said, if you see anything unsafe at all, call a ceasefire. Whether there's anything going wrong, but if you perceive something not quite right, maybe see someone inching up too close to the firing line or just something not paying attention, you see people muzzle sweeping, which I'll get into, call a ceasefire and just everything stops. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get into a pistol operation. All right, this is the Glock 19. All of the weapons here have been cleared and made safe, and there's no live ammunition here at all. To go over the basic parts of the gun, mainly we have the slide. Have the grip, you have the trigger guard, your barrel and muzzle, you have the sights, and back here this is called the beaver tail. Now this, when you're gripping, this keeps the slide from hitting your hand, so you're up in the beaver tail like that. So you're, I'll use the blue gun for this one. So when you're gripping, and a lot of these elements with a handgun are going to translate to other weapons as well. These the basics of these. So when you're holding your main grip, fingers off the trigger. You always want to post it on the slide, not on the slide because that moves. So the top of the frame. All right, and then you're going to put your other hand is going to come up along that. Your fingers are going to wrap underneath. That's why I'm using the blue gun because I'm muzzle sweeping the videographer right now. But all right, and then the right thumb lays on top of the left thumb. Now some people, when you have a tendency to grab that way, some people have a tendency to put their left thumb like that. And what happens is that slide comes back and it'll take skin off your thumb. And I've seen some pretty bad ones. So that's why I say the right thumb keeps the left thumb out of trouble. And again, fingers off the trigger. You're ready to hold. You present, you aim. When you're ready to fire, you put your finger on the trigger and pull. The next thing we're going to cover is a rifle. And this is a basic AR-15 style rifle that you'll be firing. And just one bit of information, AR stands for Armalite Rifle. Armalite's the company that developed the AR-15 back in the 50s. So it doesn't mean assault rifle, as some people mistakenly believe. All right. So we'll go over a little bit, things are a little bit different on this. So instead of, we have the upper receiver, which contains the bolt where the gun fires. Down here you have the lower receiver, which contains the trigger pack. Again, you have your sights. We have an optic on this one. Your barrel, your muzzle. This is your magazine well. Trigger guard, trigger. This is the charging handle. All right, and your buttstock. The proper way to do this is to hold. You always want to get this in the pocket of your shoulder. So the way you find your pocket is to move your arm forward and you'll feel right there at your shoulder, at the bone, at the joint, there's a pocket right there, and the firearm will go right into that pocket. All right. You grip that way, this way, and you want to put your cheek on here, but you keep your head straight up and down. I see a lot of people doing this like they're going to take a nap. We don't want to do that. All right. So you pull in, you're pulling in with this hand, you're pulling in with this hand, and you're aiming. And that's basic. This is also your slide release, your bolt release, I'm sorry, and then your mag release is on this side. And that's basic operation with an AR. The third firearm I'm going over today will be a pump action shotgun. This is 12 gauge. This will be used for the skeet portion. All right, and go over basic nomenclature with this. Obviously you have your barrel, your muzzle. This is your vent rib. All right, this is the fore end right here. This is what cocks the weapon and loads it. You have your loading port over here. You have your fore end port on the bottom to load it. This is your fore end release right here. It allows you to manipulate the fore end without pulling the trigger. It's actually how you unload the gun if there's ammunition left in there. You have your safety on it right here. It's at the front of the trigger guard. One thing to remember with safeties on something like this, it has a red line around it. That means that it's armed. So red means dead. That's always a good way to remember that. If you don't see red, then the gun is on safe. If you see red, it's off of safe. All right, and you have trigger guard, and your butt stock. All right, and this is a bead sight. So this is what you use basically to line up. And the grip is going to be pretty much the same. You're going to put that into the pocket of your shoulder. You're going to hold it this way. You want to lean forward to handle because the gun's are front heavy. And you're going to look at the bead sight. There's really no back sights to look at. You just aim down the bead sight. And we'll get into how that works with the skeet shooting in a moment. And again, that cocks it. After each shot, you have to charge the action with the forearm.
Steve, I have a question. When the ladies are using the firearms, will you be right with them? And when they're at Zero Delta, will they also have an instructor with them?
Absolutely. During the skeet portion, I will be directly to your right-hand side. I'll be monitoring everything with the firearm. The operation, safety will be there. And I would guarantee you at Zero Delta that they're going to be just as serious about safety as I am. And there will always be somebody right there with you monitoring, making sure you're safe, and making sure you're using things correctly.